Hey, what's up, guys? So, this is day number 4 in Truth for Dark Days. So, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I hope that you guys are doing good. I'm gonna try to get this Bible study going. Everyone's been kind of just getting busy and everything, so I understand. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So, God is in control. Joseph was known for his dreams, and his dreams were far from ordinary. As he dreamed, it became obvious that God was involved and that his dreams were signs of what God would yet do. Joseph's dreams hinted at the fact that he was the object of God's special favor, the servant of his divine purpose. These truths only increased his brother's hatred. Eventually, even the affection of Jacob, his father, began to cool. Joseph became, in a sense, an isolated young man with no one to talk to or identify with. We might have expected Joseph to withdraw into himself and avoid the pain in his life and hide from a world that hated him, a world that was alien to him, full of discord and fractured relationships. But that wasn't his response. Instead, we find that he remained steady and focused with a clear vision of the future. Joseph's resilience is striking. How do we explain such a response in the life of a 17-year-old? In the very center of Joseph's being was an awareness of the fact that God, who was his heavenly Father, was providentially in control of his life. According to the Westminster Shorter Catechism, providence is that act of God's grace and kindness by which, in his wisdom and power, he preserves and governs all the events of the lives of his creatures. Though every dream in the midst of life's chaos, Joseph recognized that God reigned over everything. As in Joseph's circumstances, so in ours. God is as much in control of the trauma, animosity, and difficulty we face as he was in control of the fulfillment of Joseph's dreams. When we can't understand why it is that we would be objects of another's hatred, let me just start that part over. As in Joseph's circumstance, so in ours, God is in much control of the trauma, animosity, and difficulty we face as he was in control of the fulfillment of Joseph's dreams. When we can't understand why it is that we would be objects of another's hatred, we need to remember that God, seated on his throne, is interested in the affairs of our lives. We can't discern God's plan based on what's most comfortable, acceptable, and rationally obvious. God's providential care expresses itself not only in ordinary expected ways, but also in surprising and unusual ways. Let's not see the dark and disappointing times as thwarting his unfolding purpose. Instead, let's learn each day to trust him more completely. So now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers. They hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear the dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and his words. So guys, right, I think we've all dealt with this, right? Out of it's jealousy or hatred, people they assume the worst, right? They say, "Oh no, nah, I don't want to rock with you no more. I don't want anything to do with you no more. Nah, get away from me," right? "Oh, nah, they wish the worst on you," right? There's so many people out there, they always wish the worst on you, right? So if you know that story, right, they sell him and everything, right, and I think they tell their dad that he died and stuff like that, but then later on, he becomes an interpreter for the king, right, so he's come into power, so there's a famine in the land, there's all this, right, And what happens? What happens? His brothers come from the request of their dad, right, to the king to ask for grain just so they could eat. And what do? They're bowing down to Joseph. They do not know it's Joseph, right? Crazy how God can work, right? He put them into position where his dream came true. They literally bowed down to him, right? But his forgiving heart, his loving heart, he still loved them. He still forgave them. He didn't hold a grudge. He didn't say, you know what? Y'all did this to me. Y'all could go ahead and suffer. So what could we learn about today? No matter who's done you wrong, no matter what people have said about you, what people have done to you, right? We gotta forgive. That doesn't mean that you just let them back in your life and everything's good and dandy, right? No, it's not that. It's not that. But you forgive them, not for them, but for yourself. Because think about it like this. If you hold a grudge in your heart, you hold hatred in your heart, you're giving too much of your mind and your attention and your energy and focus to them. They don't deserve that. You deserve to have all that pointed in something that's going to benefit you, right? I've had to do this. It's hard. Believe me, it's hard. But you could do it. So, if there's any hatred in your heart or any, like hatred or bitterness or anything, forgive the person. There's different ways to forgive people. If you need, advice of what you should do, or if you should forgive this person or whatever, talk to me.